Hello and welcome to the 7th episode of the second series of the Surrogate podcast. I'm really excited about today's episode because I've got my daughter in the studio, which feels wonderful. And I'm also reunited with Melissa, who I had the pleasure of meeting when we did the first season of the Surrogate podcast. So I want to welcome you both to the studio. We're going to be talking about surrogacy and family, which is why Kiki's in. And all the things that encompasses. But let's first of all hear a little bit more about the two of you. Melissa, tell us about yourself, why are you here, tell us your context.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I am 32. I'm a single parent to my only son who's just started school, and I am a one-time surrogate. Baby was born in January, and we are pretty much at the end of our journey now. We've just got the court date in a few weeks.
Amazing. So it's so nice when you've seen somebody a part of their journey and then you see them.
Yeah.
Kiki, tell us about you.
Well, I'm nearly 14 and I'm in year 9. I'm not a surrogate, obviously.
So pleased to hear that.
But
Been a big reveal.
yeah, sorry. No, but my brother recently joined my school, so that's been nice to have him back, like in where I go to school, because I didn't have him around for like 2 years at school. So obviously I had him around at home, but then he has recently joined my school, so it's been nice to see him again. And he's been hanging out with me and my friends very often, so it's really nice.
Fab, thank you both for being here. So surrogacy and family, I think there's the initial approach to that is that I want to kind of go, Melissa, how does your kid feel about that? And Kiki, how do you feel about your mum being that? But I also want to make sure that we cover, this is wider. There's a lot of people in different makeups of family that this impacts on. So I'm going to start with a question to you, Melissa. What was the most challenging relationship in terms of your family and your decision to be a surrogate?
I think they were all kind of a little bit tricky. I would say probably my dad and my sister. My dad he had so many questions. He asked all the right questions. And thankfully at that point, I had given him all the correct answers and he was pretty much straight on board. My sister, on the other hand, was very apprehensive. She knows me better than anybody. And she was so nervous the whole time. I think she was more scared than I was. She met my IPs and she adores them, but she was still very apprehensive of the whole thing. And she was very much on board. I think she was just worried for me as a person and her sister. She didn't want to have to be the one to pick me up if I got left or didn't have the communication after the baby was born.
Sure.
But luckily enough, I do have got communication and the relationship is very much there. So yeah, she was probably the hardest. I think she was very shocked when I said I was going to do it. Everyone in my family was like, oh no, she won't go through with it. Like, she's just saying this. And then obviously once I was pregnant, they were like, oh, she's actually doing this. But yeah, I think that was kind of the hardest relationship.
Yeah. Kiki, do you remember me first talking to you about surrogacy, or does it feel like that long ago?
I mean, I remember when you were like on your like first journey, and you like were telling me and also like what it meant to be a surrogate and stuff. And like I think basically it wasn't that strange when you first like told us about it, because I think you explained it very well, and you and you kind of like simplified it so we could all understood. And then I think if we had any questions, like you just answered them as honestly as you could. So, which is what I do when I like tell my friends when I told my friends what you were doing, like when they were like, oh, what's a surrogate? I was kind of just telling them what you told me, basically just like trying to say it as simple as possible. So
I remember on that first journey, I'm going to thoroughly embarrass your brother in his absence now, but I remember in that first journey that your response was, yeah, that makes sense. When I told you that I was going to be a surrogate, and I remember his was, will we have breast milk? This was a few years ago. I don't think he'd have any interest whatsoever now in that. But yeah, I think you've, in my opinion, you've both taken it massively in your stride. It doesn't feel like it's been a big life jolt.
No, I don't think it has. I think yeah, I think meant the way you like told us about it, and it wasn't like you went through with it and then were just like, surprise, I'm pregnant with someone else's baby or something, which would be like very shocking. Just wake up on a random day and just be like, what's going on? But then you like explained it when you were like thinking about doing it, and then when you like met, and like anytime something like big happened, you would like update us on stuff. So I think it wasn't that awkward when like you told us about it.
Yeah. And Melissa, coming back to your point, I think maybe for some of our listeners, it's a bit of a surprise to think that anybody would ever why would someone have a problem with someone doing surrogacy? But actually, our friends and our families care very deeply for us, and pregnancy and childbirth carry risks. Hopefully they don't end up being risky journeys for everybody, but there are health complications, there are psychological complications to carrying the child for another person. So I can understand that. How are your family now that you're right the way through it on the other side?
Yeah, they're all great. I think for me, obviously, it's been nearly over 9 months now, so it does seem a lifetime away. So it's very much now that I'm not pregnant and, I don't have the baby or anything like that. It's very much at the back of their minds, and everything's kind of gone back to normal, back to the way it was before I ever mentioned surrogacy. But I just had this added bonus friend, like 2 friends with a baby, do you know what I mean? And I think for a while afterwards, my sister was very worried about my mental health, because she knows what I've been through in life. She knows that I do suffer with mental health, like quite a lot sometimes. And I think that was her biggest problem, that she was worried I was going to have a breakdown. And she, for months after the baby was born, she was there waiting for the breakdown, waiting for the fallout, and it never came. And I think she realized eventually that I had trained my brain essentially to know that, this isn't my baby. She's nothing related to me in any sense. And I think unless you go through it, it's really hard to understand the way you feel after you've given the baby to their parents. And she won't ever understand that, I don't think. As much as I try and explain it to her, she won't ever understand it, because she was not going through it. So, but yeah, things have pretty much gone back to normal. Everyone I speak to kind of asks, oh, how is she? How are they doing? And it's nice to have the updates, but it does feel like a lifetime away. It's odd how things do just go back to normal.
Well, you're kind of breaching the point of as long out of womb as was in womb, aren't you now? So that must feel different. And I agree. I think still, even now, I obviously work in surrogacy and talk to people about it all the time. But I think still now, like, that big question that a lot of people ask is, how are you going to feel handing the baby over? And it is so incredibly difficult to describe the difference, particularly in a gestational surrogacy where you don't have any kind of genetic connection. It is so difficult to describe to people that isn't you handing your baby over.
This was the thing that my sister really, really struggled with. So she was my birthing partner. So she was with me through the whole labour. And my intended parents came in just at pushing time, so they were there. And obviously after baby was born and, you've had your tea and toast, they got given a private room. I didn't hold baby until she was about 12 hours old, which was fine with me because I needed my rest. But my sister openly said to me after I was recovering, she was like, that was really hard to watch. It was like they just took your baby from you. And I said to her, I was like, she was never mine. And it honestly had no effect on me. And I think for a few weeks after having the baby, I was still shook at how easy it was and how, what's the word? It was just genuinely so easy to just hand her over, and that was that. Like, because I knew from the start that she was nothing to do with me in terms of genetics or anything like that, and that was where my sister really struggled. She was quite hurt about how quickly that transition went. And I know for some surrogates they do hold the baby first and then they hand them over, but I
different for every journey, hey?
Exactly, and I didn't hold her at all. My intended mother caught her. She was first to hold her, so it was very separated. And I said from the start, like, I don't want any connection with that baby until she's a few hours old at least, because I didn't want to have those feelings. I was so high on gas and air and it brawls out. I don't think I really noticed. But yeah, she struggled, and I think it took her a few days to kind of get over it. But like after me reassuring her that, you know, I don't have those feelings that I had for my son for this baby. I just don't. And it is one, like you said, it's one of those things that, and unless you've gone through it, it's hard to explain to anyone, that I don't think they'll ever understand.
Well, Kiki's got a really good, easy way to explain it. Kiki, can you talk us through the way that the series of things that you'd say to your friends that you quite enjoy saying in terms of your mum being a surrogate? So,
yeah. Anytime like my friends, like when I was like first telling my friends, like when mum first got pregnant, I said something along the lines of like when they said, I'd say, "Oh, do you know my mum's pregnant?" And then they would say, "Oh no, that's great for her," and like, "Oh, how is she?" and stuff. And then I'd be like, she's fine. It's not hers. She's not keeping it. She's taking loads of like medication and stuff, and she's giving it away to people." And then like they just look at me just like really confused, and then I'd just be like, "She's a surrogate," and then they would just be like, "Oh."
okay. I quite enjoy the fun you've had with telling your friends on a number of occasions, but they've all been dead interested, haven't they? You know?
Yeah, I mean, when I was telling my friends about it, like a couple of them, when I was telling them about me like being on the podcast and stuff, they were saying stuff to me about, "Oh yeah, I'll try and look for it," and like people asking me the name of it and stuff, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's called like a surrogate podcast and stuff," and I was like saying, "Yeah, it's like really interesting." And then they were just saying it was great that I was going to be on it. And I was just basically saying like how great it was I was going to be there. So
How's it impacted our life? What's different?
I mean, well, I think apart from the trips that you'd be making like into London about like near the beginning of it, or like into different places to do like the clinic visits and stuff, I think after a while, I think you said you came home after like a couple of them and then we're just like, right, that's it for like clinic stuff. Like that was the end of it. And then the way you described it was you were just another pregnant person out in the world. And I was just like, that actually makes quite a lot of sense. And then I just think apart from you going into London from occasion to like either see Danny and Edu or to like just go to like clinic appointments and stuff, I think it hasn't really changed that much. It's not like you've been away from home for like weeks on end or something.
I've spent quite a bit more time in bed.
Oh yeah, but you'd be going to bed like half an hour or like an hour before me and I was there. Yeah, and I also like, where's mum gone?
Night, mum. So my kids are putting me to bed. That's a big shift. Melissa, talk to us about, you've got a son. Talk to us about him and what you think his experience of your journey has been.
Obviously, every child's different, but my son Archie, he took it in a stride, honestly, and it was the cutest.
He was young, right?
Yeah, so he's nearly 5, so he was nearly 4. I'm trying to work it out now. He was 3.5 when he met my intended parent.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he, from the start, like he knew who my IPs were and he had a really, really good relationship with them. And as soon as I was pregnant, I told him, I was like, "Oh, there's a baby in mummy's belly." I said, "Oh, it's so-and-so's name." And he always referred to them with the baby's name. So anyone who kind of said, "Oh, who's in mummy's belly?" he would then say all 3 names, thinking they were all in there. But my intended mother bought him a book about surrogacy, and we read it quite a few times. And children are so resilient, especially at that age. He, like after a few times of telling him off for jumping on me, he kind of got used to it, and he was really cuddly throughout all of it. I think the only difference was towards the end, obviously, when I went into hospital. I was in hospital for 5 days because there was a backlog. So he spent 5 days with his dad, which was great for him.
Yeah.
And then obviously I come out of hospital, I was a little bit like, fragile. And he literally just spent 3 days by my side. And I think he really missed just those 5 days of me. So, and even now, like I say to him, I was like, "Oh, do you want to go see, so-and-so?" And they're like, he's like, yeah. And he gets really excited. And he's kind of forgotten about it, to be honest. He hasn't forgotten them. Obviously, we met baby. We all went out to the zoo a couple of months ago, and we met baby then, and she was just very niggly, so we didn't get her out or anything. And he just wasn't really interested.
Yeah.
Like he knows who she is, and he adores seeing videos. And he's like, "Oh look, she's laughing." And
But actually, the timing in how you've done it is probably going to be outside of him actually having much memory of it, isn't it? As it is.
Yeah. And I mean, he's going to grow up knowing who she is and who they are. And whenever I mention them, he's like, "Oh yeah, let's go see them. Let's go see them." Like, and he adores them. But there is a question that everybody asks because Archie is so young, but he really took it in a stride. Yeah. And one day I came home and I said to him, I was like, "Look," and he was like, "Mummy, your belly's smaller." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have a baby in there anymore." Mm-hmm. And obviously then, so that was literally like a few hours after I'd given birth. His dad brought him up to the hospital to see me. And then the following day, he came up to the hospital with my sister and met baby. And he was a bit like, she's so small. What do I do with her? He had pretty much. He was kind of like shying away a little bit. And he was like, "Can I touch her?" like you do with dogs. "Can I touch a dog?" Like, yeah, but yeah, he missed him. Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, she's really cute." And that was it. Like, I never really got much out of him then. I think once he's asked if the baby's in my belly, and I'm like, "Well, no, I'm not pregnant anymore." But yeah, but he's very, very much just dealt with it really, really well. Yeah.
And I'm pleased that you mentioned actually the books, because that's a really important thing I think to mention on this episode, particularly for any listeners who are starting surrogacy journeys, who are wondering about how will I put this in context to younger children. There are now quite a range of really good books. We could probably link some in the show notes that are available for explaining all kinds of assisted reproduction and surrogacy to younger children. And some of them are just like, oh gosh, I couldn't have said it better. It's and we are very pro at MSJ talking openly, to children born through surrogacy about their origins, about how they were created, about who carried them. The relationship you then decide to have as a surrogate with your IPs is completely and utterly unique to you. How did you and your IPs go about sort of establishing what that was going to look like?
I think from the start, we had quite a lot of open conversations, and I think we just had such a lovely friendship. And there wasn't ever really anything that we disagreed on or anything like that. So it was very easy going forward. And we just agreed that, immediately after baby was born, they said, we might not be as talkative because we've got a newborn. But in actual fact, they were so talkative. And for the first few weeks, they were messaging every day to make sure I was okay. And obviously, I didn't want to message them because I didn't want to disrupt their little baby bubble. But they were always messaging, always asking. And, it did dwindle, but it's dwindled really nicely. So over the space of 9 months, it has come to the point where we talk once every 2 to 3 weeks, and we have like the little group chat.
So that separation is just naturally
Yeah, and it is so natural and I've never felt forced. And I think that's the one thing that I love about our relationship, that we are very easygoing people, all three of us. Yeah. And it's just been so natural, the whole thing. And yeah, the friendship will always be there, I think.
Keith, do you ever think about the relationship you would have with this baby?
Well, I never really, it's kind of hard to think about it because it's obvious that you still got the baby inside of you. But
exactly.
Yeah, but I think I have thought about it before, just kind of what would happen. And I guess, what I thought would happen was probably just we'd meet up with Danny and Eddie once or twice a month or something to just because you would probably want to check in with them and stuff, and they'd probably want to check in with you and things, but just meet each other probably as friends, friends would do. But just to see how everything's going. I wouldn't expect you to definitely not move nearer them or something. So I'd be I just need to make sure you're doing okay or something. But I think I'd just visit as friends and stuff just to make sure everything's going well.
And you and one of the things I've really enjoyed with you and Oslo on this journey is the little conversations. So Oslo who was my son, who was younger than Kiki, obviously was the last person in my uterus, and he has been making some funny comments, hasn't he? You remember some of the things he's been saying to the baby in my belly?
Yeah, he was saying like, I think it was like she was kicking, and I said, you need to like calm down in there. I left like loads of furniture in there for you. That's why you're staying in there. And then like he made a joke that like when Ozzo was in there, like there was no furniture left, and I was just like, sorry.
I think he said to me the other day, "Oh, I'm pleased that you found the trampoline that I installed for you." I love that. In his head, there's this whole world going on inside my uterus that I'm completely unaware of. But no, I think on the whole, as teenager kids, you've both just sort of taken it in your stride. Really, it hasn't been.
Yeah, I think I might have said this before, but I think if we were like a bit younger, I might have asked like a couple more questions. But again, because you explained it, and then you like told us that a lot of your other friends, like in like your community and stuff, had done it sometime. Like one time or another, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like really cool and stuff. And I think instead of just going like, that's a bit weird that you're like giving birth to someone else's baby, I think I just thought it was really cool because you like giving someone else like an amazing opportunity, especially when they can't like do it for themselves. Thanks, Billy.
Let's talk a little bit about single and not single surrogates. So you were single on the.
I'm a single, yes.
You are still single. I wasn't at the beginning, but am now single. I know Hayley, who co-hosted on the previous episode, previous series with me, did surrogacy single, and partner support hasn't been something that I have missed on this journey. And talk to me about your experience, Melissa, about being pregnant as a single person.
It's a bit of a weird one because although, yes, I'm single, I am, like, my son's dad is my best friend.
Yeah.
So we live very close and we are in each other's pockets all of the time.
Okay.
So we weren't so much during the beginning half of the journey, but his relationship actually broke down kind of halfway through the journey. So second half of the journey, we were really close, like, and we became even closer as friends. We went on a couple of holidays together with our son, which was really nice. But he was really supportive. So the first half of the journey, it was very much...
Was he practically supportive? Was he like involved in supporting you practically?
No, not... More so with Archie, like, and having him like childcare and things like that. So if I was really, really tired or something and I said, oh, do you mind having him for a couple of extra hours? Like, I just need a nap. He was there.
Right.
But other than that, like, I didn't... Obviously, I was single when I had Archie anyway. Like, I did all of that pregnancy by myself as well. So for me, it was nice to have the extra support from him, even though he's not my partner. But funnily enough, he ended up having an operation halfway through the pregnancy. So at one point, I think I was about 6 or 7 months pregnant. I was obviously waddling and struggling with a bit of back pain, as you do. And he had just gone through a surgery. So he couldn't really look after Archie. So there was about a 3 or 4 week period where we ended up just going away to a caravan and lounging around for 2 weeks. Just sort of semi-looking after each other. Yeah. So we leaned on each other quite a lot, and I'm grateful to have such a great friend in him.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's co-parenting.
Yeah.
Though I say I'm single, I do have the support from him, which is great. So...
And I think building, you touch on kind of being good friends with him, but friendship support as well as family support is so important on all of these journeys, isn't it? I've definitely had a lot more of my friends sort of wrapping around, making sure that I'm okay. We've had a lot of friends staying, haven't we? We've got, as we're going towards the birth, we've got quite a lot of different doulas and people coming to stay at different times. There's a sort of fascination with surrogacy that people want to somehow touch it or be involved in it in a way that when it's happening, isn't there? So yeah, that is fascinating. I've been spending a fair amount of time at my parents' house recently because my dad's unwell, and they have a lot of visitors coming over. And some of the questions that some of the people are coming out with and asking me are really, really fascinating. But everyone wants to know a little bit about it, don't they? Let's let's conclude. What are some of the things that you would say, Melissa, I think particularly if you were advising people in terms of how they tell their family, how they involve their family in their surrogacy journey? What's your takeaway? What would you
I
say?
think get them involved as early on as you can. My sister didn't actually meet my intended parents until transfer day.
Okay.
So she has 3 children of her own, well, 5 actually, 2 are grown up and kind of left home nearly. So she has 3 young children. So for her, it was quite hard to get her involved. She came to my first clinic appointment, but obviously the intended parents weren't there. They didn't need to be. But the first time she met them was at transfer, which was fine. And I knew they would all get along really, really well, which was fine. But I would have liked to have had more time blending the families a little bit.
Yeah, they knew each other.
Yeah. But then on the flip side, Archie knew them really well. And from the get-go, I was very much, these are Mummy's really, really good friends. And as soon as I was pregnant, I told my son straight off the bat, I was like, oh, this is so-and-so's baby. And I was very, very forward with him. And because he knew who they were and he had a really good relationship with them, he understood who the baby was.
Yeah.
So that was really easy for me to tell him. But yeah, just try and get anyone who's really, really close that is going to be involved with you.
Involve them in getting to know you.
Yeah, get them involved with your intended parents, as long as obviously they're happy to do so. Try and blend that as much as you can, because then the support's there. I mean, when I was in labour, I wasn't on my phone. My sister was texting them the whole time. And then she was like, she's kind of high on gas today right now, like being discussed. And, she was then liaising with them. And I felt so comfortable letting them just had their conversations. But yeah.
That's a really, really useful bit of advice. Thank you. Kiki, to other teenagers out there who maybe haven't had any exposure to surrogacy, what have you learned? What's been really helpful for you through this journey?
Well, obviously none of my friends can meet Danny and Eddie, who'd like to get to know them and stuff, because they live in London. But then I think honestly, if any of your friends ask any questions, just be as honest as you can. And also if any of your friends mix anything up by accident, or just let them know if something's changed or something, because when you did your first journey and then I'd already told my friends, it wasn't like I'd kept them in the dark about it and were just oh yeah, my mum ended up going through with it, or they ended up the intended parents ended up not going through with it or something. I was just oh yeah, it didn't really work out or anything. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of trying to be as honest as I could with my friends, and basically not being shamed of it or anything, because there's nothing to be shamed of. And I mean, just try and get as involved with it as you can, and be as supportive as you can, I guess. Okay.
Wise beyond your years, Kiki King. That's why we have you here. Thank you ever so much. And yeah, thank you both for coming and talking so honestly about that unique part of it for all of our listeners and people exploring surrogacy for themselves. Just really think about the needs of your own family. And I think I would reiterate Melissa's point, involve them in getting to know the people that you're having a baby for. And yeah, just enjoy that opportunity to expand your family as well as overcome some of the challenges. If this episode touched you and you'd like to find out more about my surrogacy journey and our completely unique surrogate membership, please head over to our website, www.mysurrogacyjourney.com, or follow us online on Instagram at official My Surrogacy Journey. If you love this episode, then please subscribe to the series, because we're going to have episodes coming out weekly. We can't wait for you to tune in and follow us. Thanks for listening.